Okay, welcome to the first annual Student Union Presidency debate. My name is Kim. I'll be the moderator along with other two, which are the editors of the chief of editors, who are Adam and Lieber. So let me introduce the candidates first. So first, over here on the right side is Calvin and Edward to the brand, and on the right side is the Taria and yeah. So just remember, we had a primary week before, and then the result was 556 people voted out of 2,475 people who could have voted. So it's 22%. So that's pretty good. Right. So Adam got 268 votes. So congratulations. Calvin and Eddie got 289 votes. And this debate will be the deciding factor because first, there are two things. First, this debate will be filmed and will be on the YouTube, Facebook, and the Spectator website at stu.org. And then the second thing is this will have a major impact on getting an endorsement from the Spectator. So, and this debate is co-hosted by Spectator and DOE. Okay, let's just say how the debate is going to turn out. The time we are aiming for is 30 minutes or 45 minutes. The moderators, the participants are president and vice president candidates. And first of all, Leopold will toss the coin, so who goes first?
Yeah, Leopold!
Since Calvin won the primary, he can call it. Heads. Heads. So Calvin will go first.
Let me just say general outline. So general outline of the debate is that 7 general questions from the moderators, 3 specific questions from the moderators to each candidate, and the candidates will have an opportunity to ask 3 questions to another candidate, and the other candidate will have the same opportunity. And after that, it'll be a Q&A section. So both of you, please, good luck.
So I start with this opening statement.
Yes.
Okay.
So did that.
So the SU has had a difficult year, but we're here to change it. Eddie and I are the only candidates with SU experience, and that is essential for change, because we understand how the organization works, as well as what the core problems are. With our knowledge, we'll be able to create an SU that is both organized and efficient. Rather than angrily protest, we plan to achieve our goals through compromise that will satisfy both the students and the administration. Our policies include changing the dress code, as well as promoting student unity by collaborating with major organizations inside the school. In addition to having good policies, we feel that it would be meaningless if those policies aren't implemented. We are the ones who will be able to implement the policies that will benefit the school. We are the best candidates for this school.
I first want to give special thanks to the Spectator editors, Ed Cho and Lieber on the other. Secondly, I want to thank the Board of Elections, including Bob Kim, the chairman, for facilitating the whole process. And thirdly, I want to thank my lovely Vice President candidate, Sophia, for her dedication and for her diligence. She will be a great Vice President. And also, I thank all the students who come here to receive more information on us. This year's SU's lack of persistence and creativity has hurt our community and forced us to lose faith in student government. It seems as though the only way for a student to express his or her concerns is by writing opinion articles in the Spectator. We will change this. Our policies are fresh and thoughtful for implementation, and we have actively sought teacher feedback on them. Sure, our experience does not lie in SU, but both of us have found other ways to take part in activities that impact the school. Calvin and Eddie had their chance in the SU and failed to make contributions leading to positive change in the school. Give us a chance. We will provide an entirely new perspective, and no longer will the student union hide from the students. The following policies were designed not to cater to the administration needs, but rather to the students' concerns and desires.
So first we have our 1-minute grace period policy, which will allow students who have to come to the 10th floor after class on the lower floors. And we've already talked to some teachers about it, and they're advocating this idea. So this shows our proactivity already. Next, we'll have a YouTube channel, and it'll be part of our platform Connecting Style, where we'll post recaps of SU meetings so people are kept in the loop. We'll post open mic performances, SEC performances, and overall just to keep the school together. Next, we have our college alumni fair, which will allow current Stuyvesant students to learn about the college process through former Stuyvesant students, rather than through distinct college representatives.
And to enforce this policy, we're actually going to get information from the current seniors with their email addresses so that for next year, this will be easily in.
So these ideas, combined with your ideas, will help to restore interest in the SU and make it a legitimate organization like it once was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's start the debate. The first question is to Calvin, and you'll have 2 minutes to respond, and then the Adam Tahia side will have a 2-minute, 2-minute rebuttal. Let's assume you're the student union president. And you are trying to get out to lunch privileges for the entire school. You've tried for months, almost a year. You've been pushing for this. You've argued that the GOE has nothing against it. You made deals with various safe haven communities in the area who said we will protect the students should anything go wrong. You brought this up with Pykel, other members of the administration. Nothing's happened. The administration is consistently opposed to negotiating it and has a consistent view against out-to-lunch privileges. After, we'll say 6 months of this attempt, what would you do? What would you do to try to reach some sort of compromise or to try to present your issue in a new light? 2 minutes. After 15 seconds of the session.
5 seconds. 4. Start. 3.
So the administration has its reason for not letting students go out for lunch, and it's important that we realize what these reasons are. But I guess you haven't specifically told us what it is. With that knowledge, we'll be able to work a better compromise. One thing that we would need is the support of the students, and what we can do is have a student petition. Let everyone know why we want to go out for lunch, why it's reasonable. And the administration, the whole point is that we make them understand how we feel. If we go up to them and be angry about it, or just try to make them understand our side without letting them know that we understand their side, it's not going to work. We have to have a compromise. We have to let them know what our side is. And to do that, we need to know what their side is.
Yes, but how would you do that? How would you find out their side?
That's what SLT meetings are for. Me, Eddie, and the other 2 SLT members that I choose, we get to have meetings with Mr. Tysdal and Mr. Isaac, and there we will be talking through and asking them why won't they let us out to lunch, whether it's a technical reason or if it's something that they're afraid of. We really need to know the reason why, and with that knowledge, we'll be able to come up with a compromise.
Thank you.
So our specific approach to deal with this issue would be, first of all, we would create a specific committee within the SU. The SU president actually has that power to assign temporary positions, and that's what we would be doing. To get student petitions advocating for going out to lunch privileges. Secondly, we would get endorsements from teachers. What the teachers would do is provide information indicating that students that go out to lunch are happier and are able to get more nourished for their afternoon classes.
Also, students have attempted to negotiate with the administration through meetings like the SLT meetings, student leadership teams. However, just talking to them does not work all the time. And we need to create a petition, and we need to have a committee that has that power to do this.
Okay, actually, you guys will actually have the opportunity to respond first to question number 2. So we're going to switch off every single question. So both of you guys have talked about how, if elected president, you would attempt to get students more involved and find out what students want from you guys so you can implement those policies. But how would you increase student activism and or student involvement in school activities and the SU? How would you involve them, even if they were apathetic, even if they don't care, say they don't care about the SU, they think that based off its history, it's not worth trying to care about the SU. Do you think that these students deserve your attention, or would you focus it on those who do care? So yeah.
With the PS, after 15-second discussion, we'll have 2 minutes to respond.
Okay.
2 minutes.
First of all, we must address all students. We're not looking to target specific groups of students. To do that, we will use 3 of our policies, which we actually outline in our pamphlets and on the website. The first is calendars given out monthly in homeroom to say what's going on in the SU, to talk about specific events. The second thing is a Google Docs question and answer system where any student could go online to ask the SU specific questions about the policy they are enforcing. This will cause the SU this will make the SU have to explain itself on multiple occasions. Also during this campaign, actually, we've been using social media like Facebook pages and form springs to address the needs of the students, and we think that it's worked to our success. So we'd be looking forward to addressing all students.
Alumni.
First, I would like to address what Adam said. And so first, with about social media and users of social media, throughout we have also had an online campaign, and students haven't really responded as much as we think they would have. For example, students don't get involved as much in school leadership team meeting. Students I get a question on board maybe once every day, which isn't that much, nothing really happened. So we don't think that the most obvious and direct approach to get responses would be through a Google document or other means. Also, for example, calendar during homeroom. People would just automatically throw that out. I know things that we get in homeroom, people either don't look at or we don't actually get them at all. So I think that the system is faulty, and trying to apply policies toward it wouldn't work. What me and Calvin would rather suggest is by using a bigger student union. This means that more students can be involved, and we can have separate, smaller, tight-knit communities inside the SU that together can form like a column, like a beehive. And then we would also like to create more events through larger organizations by correlating it. That way, students who don't want to directly be involved with the SU can be involved impartially. So by starting this, we want to start it at the base, with the freshmen and big SIBs. We want to correlate SU time and activities and funding to help big SIBs correlate with the freshmen for the SU. Then we would like to use this with more events, outlined with like Red Cross or Eric Star. Through this means of system, we can spread the SU's influence and power, but also teaching people's responsibilities and letting people know that we actually do something. Thank you.
Next question directed first at Alumni. What aspects of your rival's campaign do you most admire, and which do you most critique or oppose?
I admire many things about Sophia and Adam's campaign. First of all, they're both extremely creative, and they both understand what they want and what their goals are. As you can see by the Facebook page, it looks awesome, actually beautiful. So you guys have it. Second of all, I don't know really Adam that well, but I know Sophia personally very well, and she's one of my best friends. So I can personally commend that she will, if she does get elected, she will not falter. However, there are critiques. One thing
I would critique about is, I guess, their campaign management team. From what I hear, they aren't as tightly knit as ours. I let all my campaign managers know what we want and what they're looking for, and we encourage them and motivated them so that they can see why they should actually help us. But and that's what leadership is. That's what a tightly knit SU should be. And I feel like Adam and Tia's campaign team is really not as tightly knit and as supportive as ours is.
Thank you.
So what do we admire about their campaigns? First of all, we love their song. It's fantastic. You guys should go check it out on YouTube. I really like it. Second, their campaign managers are extremely outgoing, and we have been hearing multiple reports about this. They've been doing a great job spreading the word out and getting the vote out. In defense about our campaign managers, if you look at that row over there, those are two of our campaign managers right there who have been supporting us through this whole process and have been giving us debate advice and have really been helping us along the way. We also have an endorser there, Nancy Cho, who's in the front row. Where was I? My critique about their campaign would be the specific policies they outline on their about page. First of all, the dress code that they are talking about seems sort of vague and it doesn't make sense. There's this rule about, well, right now the rule, as you all know, is below the fingertips, well, above the fingertips you can't wear it. Their new policy is that if the clothes go halfway down the thigh, then it will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. I don't know what this means. So that's what I would say. In addition, I view a lot of their other policies to be good ideas, but not explained well, and they don't have a good reason for how they would execute their policies. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. So Adam will now go, and my question is, tell us your praise and criticism of FU under Ed Cho's administration. By the way, you must help both.
Pretty legit. Oh, we see it.
You guys don't need to carefully edit
5
that,
seconds.
handle it, you know?
A few minutes.
So we admire how the SU is, how they're planning these events. They're aesthetically nice, they're getting streamers and they're decorating the lunchroom. However, we don't admire how no one actually attends these events. And also, Eddie is a very great friend of mine. However, he is the vice president of our sophomore grade. And as a student of the sophomore grade, I may not be involved with the SU, but I haven't really been seeing any change within our sophomore grade. He has many ideas that are floating around, boxer sales, wristbands, or semi-formal. However, we haven't actually had an impact. There are no changes, and we haven't had any evidence of his ideas.
In addition, I would like to add that we have reports that their meetings are not very well attended. Also, they have made no attempt to outreach to the school community by getting the students' advice and the students' proposed plans and what their critiques of the SU. There needs to be a more open SU to student body environment because the SU represents the students, not the administration.
At first, I would like to praise the fact that the SU has extremely good ideas, as they were saying before. I'd also like to commend how well Sing was ran this year, because as otherwise with the mosh pit, canceling the mosh pit, there wasn't an outrage about that, there wasn't any violence, and there still wasn't a mosh pit. So I'd like to commend how well the SU was ran. As I can personally tell from being in the SU, there are also some problems. For example, there's not that much dedication throughout the students. As Adam and Tia were saying, not a lot of people show up during these meetings. It's not about like the big meetings that people show up to. Like people are always there for budget meetings or big meetings that are sent out through emails, but like everyday things for office hours, which is why both Calvin and I want to have more dedications that we can personally know will go every day and will make this a part of their lives. Also, a problem with the SU is the student outreach. Even though it's tried as hard as possible, students haven't responded well to because of the SU's reputation. If we can start from the core and improve the SU's reputation, people will go to this. Like an example is J-prom, which is commonly laughed at as a joke from around, I think, 2 years ago, where it was a big flop. However, this year, as Erica and Jennifer have done, they've created an amazing J-prom. The ticket sales are going on right now, and it's going to be on a yacht, and there's going to be dancing, all these things. So the problem is you have to fix the reputation before you can get anywhere. And that's, yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Let's say you are elected and 1 year has passed. Where do you see yourself in that 1 year? Would you have changed in any way? What about the SU? And also, what about Stuyvesant as a whole, the Stuyvesant community? Please be specific in accordance with your view of the future.
So in the future, if I were to become SU president, I would see myself as a very successful president. The SU would be a lot clearer. There would be more clear division between the departments. That way, when things need to be done, there won't be like a mosh pit of everyone trying to get on that. There will be departments for every event or every budget meeting. They'll be handled separately by a team that's dedicated, a team that, say, for special events, the team will be a director, and this director would have his own assistants, and the rest of the SU, they can help, but they won't contribute so much as to create confusion. That way, things will be run much more efficiently, and with our collaboration with the bigger organizations in the school, we'll be able to be much more well-known in the school.
I personally see myself as being more mature, being more knowledgeable about the school, and just generally loving the school even more than I already do. I want to see this school more dedicated to what its base is, because there's not much dedication to the student government now, even though it plays such an integral part to what our school is. As I know, both I and Calvin have been extremely dedicated, and I see Calvin there almost every day whenever I go. And so by next year, I want to see Stuyvesant as more of a tight-knit community instead of being students who hang out in cliques or different social groups that ally in different things in different clubs. I want to see everybody having a little part in everything. That way we can be proud to say that we go to Stuyvesant and not just another specialized high school. Thank you.
So I first want to agree with their policy about increasing the size of the government. I think that if the government increased size, every specific group will have a specific focus or a policy that it is their job to implement. For example, our jobs idea, where students could seek summer internship and just paid jobs. Harvey Blunt can't do it all. We need a committee of students to collect entries for what they want their job to be. We need students to go out and actively recruit employers to come to Stuyvesant for a jobs fair. And we need to make sure that more students are involved in the student union by using our Google Docs policies and our calendar policies.
Also, we want to create a tighter-knit community because clubs and pubs, the smaller ones at least, aren't advertised as much. We'll use our Connect Sty YouTube video channel to advertise these clubs and pubs so that through extracurricular activities are what brings students together. And also, the SU is seen as an overpowering committee, but we need to make it so that we can go to the SU with our problems, with our issues, so that we can confer with the administration and make it open communication so that we can all speak to one another.
Thank you. Here's the next question. Sorry. Are there any parts of the SU Constitution you want to change? If so, why? And please tell us what this Constitution is about so the audience can understand what it is about. And if you're satisfied with the Constitution, tell us one positive thing about Constitution. Thank you.
That's the SU Constitution. No. Anyone who's wondering.
5 seconds.
Well, they want to comment.
Time's up.
I think the Constitution is very well written, and it basically outlines for a good student government. What it does basically is it defines each position elected and appointed in the SU. For example, the elected positions, the SU president, the class VPs, and then the appointed positions include the CFO, which is the Chief Financial Officer, which oversees the Budget Committee, and then other positions such as Special Events Coordinator, which is Calvin's position currently. What we would do mainly is use this Constitution and use the power outlined in the Constitution to increase the size of each one of these sets. Basically, let's say we're talking about the Special Events Committee, and right now I think there are 3 members on it. Maybe we could put 6 or 7 members on it. 1, this would increase student involvement in the SU, which would get more interest into the student government. And 2, with more students, they'd be able to accomplish more things.
So yeah, I also agree that the Constitution right now is a very well-written Constitution. One thing I would like to change though is the removal of the freshman president. The reason is when freshmen first come into the school, they don't know each other and they only have so many months, before freshman elections are. And the only way that freshmen have to, to choose presidents is by who they know better, and that doesn't really create an efficient freshman government. What I would advise instead is a freshman advisory council for the sophomore president. That way, these freshman leaders will be able to learn what goes on in the SU, what goes on in the school community, and that way, when they become sophomores, they will be able to lead their grade more efficiently.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move on to candidate-specific questions. Response time will now be limited to 1 minute each, and I'll be asking a question. Calvin, your turn first. I'll ask a question, you'll have a minute to respond, and then I'll ask a different question to the Kia team, and they will have a minute to respond. Right?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it personally to Calvin or both?
No, to both of you, sorry. Some of your policies are generally broad. You've mentioned a few things today. You said we will do this, or we will try to do this. Haven't been very specific. Please discuss at least 1 or 2 of your policies and how you would plan on implementing them. Additionally, you've said that you will create an SU section in the Spectator. The Spectator is an independent organization. I don't think it's going to happen. Leopold doesn't think it's going to happen. How do you plan on informing the student body on the SU in a different way? Thank you. You have 15 seconds to discuss negotiations.
Okay, to first address the SU section of the Spectator, we amended that policy with the new creation of an SU newsletter at the end of every month. That way, similar to a calendar, students will get the news and information they need through a means that is better than a bunch of dates with little bullets points on them. Then, to better specify our policies, for our dress code, we would like to create a rule saying that skirts would be at fingertip length, as still held, but shorts would be at any suitable height, and this will be enforced with a photographic standard. That way, the administration wouldn't be able to call out things that they deem not as go fine fingertips as like gross or ugly. So it wouldn't be about, as quoted by the Spectator, Miss Damasek's fashionista standards. And then, so this will be upheld with the photographs. Also, we would like to, as we said before, making the 1, 2, 5, first, second, and fifth floors better, more legible. We would create this by creating an actual student lounge, which I'm sure many of you don't know actually exists. Then this will be creation of books, couches, ping-pong games, board games, things that are both appealing to students but not deemable as bad by the administration. Then we would also like to have more paintings on the walls, more murals. Because as even though we are a math and science school, we definitely have plenty of great artists.
10 seconds.
This will create kind of like writing on the wall, it will be like painting on the wall.
Can I just ask an extension to this question? You've named many policies that may cost additional funds. How do you go about raising those funds? And you may have a way of answering this question.
Well, we can create a better SU fundraiser. As before, like this year, the original sweaters, the STUY sweaters, didn't generate that much money, and the crew necks. As before, with the escalator hoodies, we generated a lot of money. So we would have more fundraisers that would be better and more efficient, that can have the student support before we go out and sell.
This question focused on specificity. You have something to offer on that front. What is a specific thing a specific fundraiser you would implement if you have one in mind?
Well, as Calvin is special events coordinator with us right now, he knows how an event should be run. So we can have these fundraisers placed in these events and things like that students would support. So as another one of our policies, we have more events for like holidays that SU can correlate with other organizations to create a better and more fun environment for students.
Thank you. Thank you. Adam, here. As you mentioned earlier today, some minutes ago, Calvin is experienced, and so is Eddie. Both are currently involved in the SU, and Eddie just discussed how Calvin's experience would benefit the school community. How would you compensate for your lack of experience? This is Tahita as well. You also did. 15 seconds.
Well, as the vice president, she's the person who works alongside the president. And as a sophomore, there aren't many positions available for leadership. However, in all the extracurriculars I'm involved with, I've worked alongside leaders in SEC, in Spectator, in speech and debate. I've worked alongside them to create a better environment for us to work in, to have fun while we do these activities. And that's what a vice president's for, is to work alongside the president.
I don't think that getting involved in the SU is the only way in which to get involved at Stuyvesant. First of all, I've had leadership positions at Stuyvesant. I have been the sing band director for 3 years straight. Shout out to James Cogan right there. And usually, as a sing band director, basically you have to communicate with all the different crews. As sing band director, you have to communicate with all the different crews and the producers. And in some ways, that's actually a lot like a government. Different groups of people working together to pass common policies. Also, I will be having political experience come this summer. I have an internship with a councilwoman, and she will be addressing a lot of issues that are actually addressed in this school.
Right, thank you. So, Calvin, let me ask you a question. Right now, you're working in the current SU leadership under Ed Cho. You are saying that you will bring much more bigger change than Ed Cho has done. However, you're working in the same government that you are saying that you will change. How can we expect you SU to change when you're incumbent already?
So right now, even though I'm part of the student union, I'm only one out of the so many members. So I honestly don't have that much of a say in the student union. And another thing is Ed, he's very prestigious. He's the head of a bunch of organizations. And because I'm not, I'll be able to dedicate a lot more time and effort into creating a better student union. I plan to interview the staff, have decent interviews to make sure that every member will be dedicated, Nothing like, just because you're my friend, I'm gonna let you on. They have to show that they're capable. And by creating a passionate team, that's how I'm gonna create a better student union.
Calvin, I just want to point out that you have a one vote in the executive council, correct? Wouldn't that have any impact on your influence over the student union actions?
Well, like that policy you brought up the other day, my one vote didn't really matter if everyone else is unanimous. So.
Okay, and Adam. Is it okay? Okay. All right, Adam. There is a rumor that you already picked the cabinet members in your mind. Although you deny this fact, how will you make sure that you will pick cabinet members fairly and without personal relationships?
I deny this fact because it's not true.
No, but how will you make sure that it goes well?
I think that to assign new cabinet members, what you have to do is, one, have an online application. This is like the pre-screening process. It's sort of like what the Big Sip chairs do, actually. And then after this, you look at the students' answers, you look at their views on certain policies, and then you take those students that you think would work well under your administration, and then you bring them in for an interview. You meet with them, you ask them specific questions, you ask them how they will use their vote in the executive committee or the budget committee to, implement policies that they think would garner better change in the Stuyvesant community.
Just to extend the question, what specific qualities will you look for in naming your cabinet members if elected?
I think that cabinet members have to be vocal, they have to be opinionated, and they have to have a genuine care about improving the student union. And I think that there are ways to detect this through their answers, if they're thorough in their answers online, if they're thorough in their answers in person, if they have a solid knowledge of the student union constitution. Thank you.
Now we're going to turn this debate over to the candidates. Each candidate will have the opportunity to ask a question of their opposition. You guys have a minute or so to decide what you would like to ask, and then Adam will start it off.
And you'll have 2 minutes to respond each.
After that, we're going to turn it over to the audience. So if the audience would like to start thinking about what they would like to ask, that'd be good. Whenever you're ready.
My first question is as follows. It seems as if the majority of your platform is grounded in slight adjustments to current policies, or in the case of the departmental evaluations, simply repeating policies that already exist. Do you have any truly unique ideas?
What we'd like to do is improve the system that our schools already founded upon, not creating revolutionary change that won't be better for all of us. For example, the dress code. We would like to change to make it better for all of us. As we know that if we can't automatically get rid of it, the administration won't approve of it as we have tried before. By the improvement of the first, second, and fifth floor, that way you'll have working with administration's compromise. So we can have better for everyone. That is mainly what our platform is built upon, compromise. By increasing communication through better announcements, bigger SLT meetings, correlation with major clubs, we are going to improve what our school is already built upon and make it the best SU that we have ever seen. What I would also, I'd also like to say that things that Adam and Tia have mentioned, such as the Stuyvesant Alumni or College Night in their previous policy online, already exist in this school. So it would seem a little bit of hypocritical to already ask that. Thank you.
Well, they're going to now ask their question of you. You can use the time to question.
Question?
So I guess Eddie sort of already led into this. Like your policy involving college alumni affair. How do you plan on expanding on these policies since these already exist?
Okay. So we have an alumni day at Stuyvesant. That is where students come from different colleges, and they come into the building, and they say hi to all their teachers, and they make a lot of noise. Then we have College Night. What College Night is that representatives from specific colleges make presentations about basically what their college is about. They're often vague and unhelpful, and also intimidating. So basically what our policy would do is bring these two things together by calling upon alums to come in and talk about each of their colleges to the students. What this would be sort of like a fair-like thing where you'd have different booths. You have a couple representatives in each booth to talk about specific things that are going on in their college and be able to answer the students' real questions. You see, it's much easier to relate to a 20-year-old than it is to relate to a 50-year-old.
I haven't experienced talking to college representatives yet, but I do know that it's a distant it's distant communication. But if we talk to alumni who've attended Stuyvesant, it's closer and we can actually relate to them. And they've gone through the Stuyvesant experience. They know what we would want to go through for the next 4 years of our life.
All right, well, now we'd like to open up to the audience and future voters. Would anyone like to start it off?
Hands over here.
Please, if you have a specific question to one candidate, please specify beforehand because we don't want too many questions directed at one candidate.
And please say out louder so you can be catch the video.
Yeah, please try to project your voice. We'll start over there in the corner.
This is a question for all the candidates. If you were SU president last year and you heard about the institution of the dress code, give me a specific plan of what you would have done to combat it, to challenge it, to make the changes that you say that you want to make today.
We'll start with Adams. Oh no, actually we're going to start with Cal because Adams.
And 1 minute response time for both of you.
So I mean, if I were the previous president, I wouldn't approach it in any different way than I would be doing it now. I would create a student petition to show that the whole school really cares about this. And by doing this,
We can show the administration that, the students are united. You have to listen to our voice because we're trying to reason with you and we'll listen to their voice as well, but in the end it's a compromise. And one thing is why I put so much emphasis on administration is we don't want to create a bad relationship with them. If we do, if we somehow anger them or push too hard, they're never going to, allow any of our policies to come through, and the SU will be pretty much dead if, our relationship with the administration breaks.
Thank you.
Lieber actually organized a petition of the dress code to protest the dress code last year. They got 800 signatures. Nothing happened. I think that the problem with the dress code is that it's not in the policy of the dress code itself, but rather its implementation. Basically, it's humiliating and harassing for an official such as Ms. Damasek to stand by the swipers while hordes of people come in at once and say, "You, report to the office, your shirt is too short." Your skirt, sorry. Really, we have too many problems with belly buttons here. But basically, I think this is bad because it embarrasses the students in front of other students. And it's not a policy that really is concrete. Basically, she uses her discretion to determine what's appropriate and what's not.
And also in Calvin and Eddie's proposal online, I thought they wanted to keep the dress code, they just wanted to modify it in some form. However, now they're saying that they want to abolish it completely by using a petition. The petition has happened, it did not work, so they are going against their policy already proposed.
So both you guys say that you want to fight back against the administration, but some of you say that, with Calvin, you say that you want to make sure you don't go too far because you don't want to alienate the school or the SU. How far would either of you guys push the envelope in terms of talking to the Title and its administration?
Adam, sorry.
15 seconds.
I don't want any of you guys to think that we are the radical candidates. Sure, we want to make huge changes, but we're not like really crazy out there. We don't want to have mass sit-ins. We're not like really that intense. But here's how we are going to implement specific policies. We will look to the teachers to basically enforce, not enforce, but actually endorse, it rhymes. To endorse each one of our policies. For example, we have gotten Senor Weldon, otherwise known as Mr. Weldon, to those of you that don't speak Spanish, to approve of our plan, which would institute a 1-minute grace period where you would have an extra minute to go to the 10th floor. So that classes would start promptly 1 minute after they are supposed to, rather than 5 or 6 minutes. Thank you.
You had a question?
yeah. Yep.
Mike?
Between the two of you, this is like for every party. Can you recall an effective SU administration? And if not, please explain how you will restore faith this aspect of the school that's more often been called a party planning committee than a legitimate change in active body. Thank you.
So I guess sadly I can't really say that, really deny James's accusation, but what I can do is, the student union is to create unity within the school, and so in some aspects it's sort of a party planning community. There are serious aspects such as budget meetings where we allocate funds to the various clubs in the school, and all of this is done so that the school can get a tighter knit community, so that different cultural groups, different cliques can understand each other, and basically create a family within the Stuyvesant community.
I would also like to point out I have Senor Weldon, James, and he can attest to the amount of how late I am to class every day to my travel from 4 to 10. Mr. Weldon, I don't think has once marked me late for how late I come to class.
Yes.
Once out of most of the days. Thank you.
Same question. We believe that social media is the most important method of speaking to the students. Through our campaign, we've seen that Forum Spring has been incredibly effective. Facebook, email, people have really been responding to our platform. And through our Connect Style program of YouTube videos, we can address all of these concerns through club advertisements. Also, our SU meetings. No one knows what's happening at these meetings. We need to make it more transparent. The student union the students have to know about what the student union is doing. And through Connect Style, we will create a place where students will watch those videos and know that this is my school, and they'll watch Open Mic, and this will be very inspiring for students, and they'll want to attend more of these events.
Ed, this is for, am I allowed to, oh wait, they're gonna both answer it anyway. All right, so both of you guys have mentioned policies that you guys can't actually implement no matter how many years you're president. I've been president twice, and I've been trying to do the same policies. Haven't exactly worked. So I would like to know if you guys can actually pinpoint any of your policies that would not work, because actually there's one I believe on Calvin and Eddie's side, and there happens to be like 3 or 4 on yours. So
feel free to specify.
Oh yeah, if Pumps could bring it up. First off, like on the computer, I just saw it before.
Yeah.
The first off was I don't need the microphone. It's okay. First off was the opening the SU meetings to the public. Actually, we have brought that up before. A lot of us have agreed that it's far more effective and far more welcoming than SLT meetings if we open SU meetings up to the public. However, members of the administration have agreed that if there are certain details that are misconstrued or misinterpreted and then published, that would be very catastrophic for a majority of the events. And like both sides have mentioned, turnouts aren't exactly optimal. So if you do mention these details and they end up getting misinterpreted, which is highly likely, in fact, even if we did not open these SU meetings, the details certainly get misconstrued once in a while. So, I mean, that's one thing. We already have the administration blocking SU meetings from being open. However, they have agreed several years ago that SLT meetings are actually indeed open to students. I believe, I wasn't there personally, but I heard like Paul Lee, who was SU president, I think it would be 2 or 3 years ago. He told me that SLT meetings have not been open to the public, particularly to students. Now they are. That is the administration's version of compromise between the student body and themselves, and helping the student body become, I guess, more in the loop. Another policy that you guys mentioned was the 1-minute grace period. If they were to agree on that, and you do have teachers' endorsement for anything, you would actually have to have them mention it in their staff meetings. Unfortunately, you're going to have to get a majority of them to agree on it, and it has been an issue before, but a majority of the teachers have said that. I know, for instance, many of the teachers in the English department 3 years ago have agreed to allow that, the grace period. I don't even know if it was 1 minute or not, but they did grant a grace period. After they ran like a little pilot thing where a lot of the teachers in the English department were told to do that, they came back and said that they couldn't take the overwhelmingly increasing number of students who ended up taking advantage of it. That actually happened. It happens quite often where a certain group of teachers or department endorses a particular policy, they go back and they change it back. So I mean, those are just two examples that I could think of on the top of my head. So I was just wondering how you'd be able to get around those obstacles that were there for quite a while.
I just wanted to take your question. That was very long time before actually we'll have more than
You have plenty of time.
Okay, so his first accusation was that we would post actual footage from SU meetings, and this would be bad because it would reveal specific things that are going on that, that we shouldn't necessarily be revealing to the students. Basically, what we meant by this policy was that we have a representative or two from the SU to basically highlight what's generally going on in these meetings, just so we don't keep the students in the dark. We're not saying that we're going to post footage from every closed-door SU meetings online. It's just, we don't think that's plausible. So we agree with that. But that's, you just didn't represent what our policy stated, correct? Second, the 1 minute grace period. In addition to Senator Weldon's endorsement, he actually brought the idea up to Senator Garcia, who actually thought that that would be a great idea too. If this sort of trend were to, I know unlikely, right? If this sort of trend were to continue, basically more members of the department would probably agree with it. Because if you have a couple people endorsing it, then they will be able to bring it up at meetings, like you said, and hopefully there will be a majority vote. What you talked about in terms of the SLT, Tiki actually has a personal experience.
I've been to one SLT meeting so far because there was a policy implemented recently on not having more than one extracurricular leadership position. Also, I was not welcome to that meeting. I went there, parents grilled me on my background, and the only three students I saw there were the president, vice president, and the SLT coordinator. But
you did recognize Remo?
Yes, yes, and Cecilia Chow.
So that's fine.
However, I went there and I wanted to ask some questions, but I wasn't very welcomed when I tried to. The teachers would not listen to what I wanted to say. And also, one thing that the Calvin Eddy campaign has said is about the 1, 2, or 5, opening it up and making it more comfortable for students. However, at that one SLT meeting I've gone to that's revealed so much to me is that Ms. Weinman has tried that. She's put sofas in the student lounge. However, they've gotten destroyed in a matter of weeks, and that is a proposal that's not possible.
I would also like to say that you had one policy of theirs that you thought would not work, and know that you are endorsing them and you only attack us.
All right. So, good point, good point. Oh, am I allowed to keep going?
We would appreciate a response.
All right, sure.
So as for the 1 minute grace period rule, I feel like there are so many teachers who really don't really care if you're late. If you talk to them and tell them that you're coming from such a great difference in floors, they'll understand. And for the teachers that do implement, that do care, even if they wanted, even if this rule was to be in action, you can't guarantee that they're going to follow it, you know? So, this rule, it's up to the teacher. Like, none of my teachers care when I'm late. And then if there will be teachers who, if you're 1 minute late, they're going to care. So this is just something that's up to the teachers. And it's the department. You're talking about the Spanish department. To get this through, you have to get through all of the teachers in the school, and there are a lot of them.
We will be accepting one more student question.
All right. This is for both of you. The first budget meeting this year happened on December 6th, 3 months into the school year, more than halfway. How will you ensure that budget meetings occur earlier and so that clubs can get funds earlier time?
You have 2 minutes for this.
Is it near?
Calvin. Pretty good.
One thing that I plan to do is to get out the SU board member application earlier. So elections are May 18th. I want to get them out by early June or mid-June so that, students during they can have the summer to fill it out, or if they have time, interviews can start in the beginning of the year. That way we'll get started much more quickly, and things will get organized, and we'll be able to have budget meetings much earlier.
I would also like to add, as sophomore vice president, how we have these elections later in the year, towards December. And I know both I and my president Clausen both missed the first budget meeting, since as the day after we got elected, there was a budget meeting, and we had no idea what it was, or no idea what it would be. So we both considered it as something that was frivolous. But as we now know, because we've attended every other single one, that they are important. So by implementing a sophomore president with a freshman advisory council earlier in the year, having elections in the beginning of September, either with the SU and junior and senior caucus elections in May, or having them in the beginning of the year, we can get the ball rolling much faster than before. That way we can have a more efficient SU than rather having an SU that starts 3 months late and ends 2 months early in the spring.
The Stuyvesant Constitution actually says that the president assumes office on the last day of the year, which is probably like June 24th or June 25th. So if you were to send out applications during May or during June, you would have to really communicate with the current SU because you haven't really assumed your role yet. That's just the first thing. Talking about budget meetings and how we increase attendance, I think basically the main point we have to do is basically appoint a very competent chief financial officer who would really push members into coming to these meetings. I think it's very important that the budget is a very important part of Stuyvesant's community because we're so rooted in the clubs and publications, which all require money. And if we could get started on this earlier, it would definitely benefit them.
We'll still have some other questions. Nancy.
So as I understand it, there are kind of two levels of communication that are involved in the SU. The first is the level of communication between the student body and the SU itself. The student body and the SU itself, right? And then the second level is between the SU and the faculty, because without faculty approving of these policies, obviously nothing will get done. So I wanted to ask both of you to just give me some concrete policies or methods of implementation that will actually kind of resolve this conflict, because a lot of voter apathy results from the attitude that although there may be great student body student body and SU communication, the way that that's resolved with student SU and faculty communication is not sufficient, and I haven't heard that much about those from either of you.
Calvin, you have 50 seconds. 2 minutes.
Okay, one thing that I plan to do is more like publicize the SLT meetings. That way, maybe let the students know what goes on in those meetings. That way, the students will know, what the administration thinks, and there will be a greater understanding between the administration and the student body. Also, the administration themselves will feel more obligated because they are the administration of this school, and we are, people they're sort of, catering to. If they know that we all hear their voice and we understand what they're thinking, they'll feel perhaps more compassionate towards us. They know we care, and create a greater connection between the administration, the SU, and the student body.
I would also like to add on where one of our policies that we haven't specifically highlighted or gone in depth is having better announcements. The system right now we have is hearing third period every morning. Hello, this is Victoria Halakar with your morning announcements, and then no one listens afterwards. With this creation of a system, we won't have to have things like homeroom calendars, which only homeroom happens sporadically. There's no set system for homeroom. That way we can have announcements people actually listen to, having them more entertaining, having things read at the end, like prominent student poetry, or having a song, something that people actually listen to. We want to create these announcements to be less of a joke and more of a serious thing, since they are one of the best ways of communicating things. Also, another example of how bad announcements are is, did you guys know that we have TVs in our homerooms, that we can have video announcements? There's no video. I know in my specific homeroom, we had a video homeroom last week. I don't know if anybody else, but we definitely did not see that video homeroom. And nor I don't think there was a video homeroom, as I asked other students. So I think that we can improve it by fixing the TVs and actually creating a legitimate announcement system in the homerooms and outside of homerooms every day. Thank you.
Adam.
I also just want to point out that I don't think we should be catering to the administration, more that we should be working alongside with them, because we're student body leaders, and the student and the faculty have to have open communication. We want students to be able to come to the student leaders, and then we will talk to the administration. And also,
I think that also the most important part of getting faculty involvement is really just to propose new policies. I feel like in the SU they keep on discussing the old policies over and over again to no avail because they're so over-discussed and people are just growing tired of these issues. We have 11 policies, all of which are original and new ideas that would benefit the student body as a whole. Also, I do like our idea with the announcements, although that would be sort of hard to implement because there are fewer opportunities to do these sorts of announcements where the whole student body is quiet and listening. And I found that problem in my third period classes too, where we're actually allowed to speak during the whole announcement, but we have to be quiet for the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know, I've memorized the Pledge of Allegiance. I haven't heard all these student announcements. I actually want to hear the student announcements more because those provide new things that are going on in the Stuyvesant community.
Also, we have to bring this up with budget directors as well because a lot of our TVs don't work in our classrooms, and so yeah, this is a problem with finance as well.
Is there another question? Yes. You guys can wait.
Well, okay, I think the biggest problem with the student body is that nobody cares. It's not that nobody knows. And how will you address that? Because from the student body, I don't really care about what the SU does or doesn't do because it's not affecting me, and I know no matter how much talk they have, no matter how many negotiations go on, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to change. And I think a lot of people feel the same way, except for a select few. I mean, Bumsu said there was only a 22% vote rate. I mean, come on.
Oh, how would you address?
So, first of all, I was actually very happy with the 22% vote rate. We're going in a very positive direction. You know that last year, the vote rate was 10%. I guess how I would answer your question would be by saying that our policies will affect you. And I know that you're used to a student union that just focuses on a select couple of issues that sort of end at stalemates. Our policies are sort of easily implementable, and they won't really garner too much controversy. All we're trying to do is just improve the quality of life among students overall. I mean, for example, I think that the 1-minute grace period really would affect you in a positive way, and so would that college fair with college alums rather than representatives.
Thank you, candidates. Now, due to
I don't think he addressed the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to ask you, are you in any clubs? Do you participate in singing?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so the SU, we fund sing, we pay for a lot of that, and, that's part of how we earn.
We also pay for sing.
Yeah, but imagine how much you would have to pay if we didn't cover most of the budget, right? And your club, can I ask what club you are in?
Do you want to know all of them?
And your favorite.
My favorite?
Model UN. Your club, you come to us for a budget meeting and you ask for money, and if your case is reasonable, we'll allocate money to help support you and help you do what you love to do. And that's, one of the bigger ways the SU is involved in your life.
I would also like to add on that with the creation of another college night. There was a college night this year for sophomores, which I think barely I'm sure less than 100 people went there. I'm thinking close to 50, which isn't a real reasonable way of system because people would rather go home and sleep or relax and do other things. However, a system we have is personal SU conversations. People who care about the SU would tell their friends about it, talk to them, and say how much the SU has done. But people like fun events more than serious things. That's a common thing. With the creation of, instead of going from a party planning organization to a mix of a party planning organization and an actual student government, we can create something that will make a compromise where everybody can be happy and can have fun, but can also have their problems addressed. Thank you.
I'd like to point out that the SU provides $40,000 for the thing, and although that it is true that students pay for sing as well, but it is also true that some money comes from fundraisers.
And also they get reimbursed.
Unfortunately, we have to leave the library by 5 o'clock, so
two more questions. Yeah.
So yeah, we have only time for a couple more questions.
Due to popular demand, we will take the question from that side. So, excuse me, please, orange shirt. Red shirt.
Okay, sorry. No, I don't need a mic. So, I guess this is addressed to both of you, but more specifically Calvin. As Ed mentioned, there hasn't been very much attendance at SU events, particularly attendance that isn't compulsory, like if you're not part of ARISTA or Big Six or something like that. What would you guys do to try to publicize events more and have more people be interested in going so that you can actually enrich the events?
Due to short time, it'll be 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Like we said before, we plan to work with some of the bigger organizations such as Red Cross or Big Six to get more students involved in these events. We'll help them out with their communication, and together we're going to make a huge event that will create a much wider audience. People are interested in different things, and by working together with different clubs in the school, that way we'll promote a much more attendance to these events. And of course, these events, the money that we make goes back to the student body.
And so when I was previously called out upon for being vice president of the sophomore grade for the lack of a sophomore semi-formal. So one day during English class I had with Tahia, I was talking with my friends about a semi-formal, and I actually got laughed at. The problem with students about having these events is that they automatically assume that they will suck. They aren't going to go with it and that it's going to be horrible. What we need to start off is fixing the reputation and then making the events better. We need to have a standard so we can have something that people will be like, oh, that was awesome last year. I want to go to that next year. So we can start off by actually showing how awesome the SU is and how awesome events can be. Thank you.
AT&T.
Well, one idea to increase awareness and come to the meetings more is provide incentives. Not all the time, but to provide community service hours maybe through the Big Civ and the ARISTA, and not every single meeting, but through the beginning, people will realize that these meetings actually have substance. And also our YouTube channel, if we can actually show highlights of these SU meetings, people will realize that the student unions actually try to make a difference here.
Okay, the last question. What, Jeff already answered this. Okay, he hasn't asked a question.
What if they say...
Yeah, it's the other twin.
It's the other one.
Oh no, there's 3. Please, go ahead.
What if the administration says no? That's what it boils down to. You guys have spent the last half hour telling us what you're going to do. My question is simple. What if the administration says no? What is your response?
Okay, Calvin, please go.
Well, I would like to point out 2 things in the statement. When the administration says no, we have to ask again. If they say no again, we have to ask again differently. There are different ways we can eventually reach a compromise. The administration isn't going to say no and not talk to us for the rest of the day. They're not like a teenage girl. So, it's meant as a joke, guys. I don't mean it serious.
1 minute.
And so a way of doing this is by actually involving the students directly or the faculty. A thing that AT&T commonly brings up is a YouTube channel. As I can personally attest to by both our song and Adam and Tia song, which I would also like to point out is good. A post that one of my friends, a joke post on our Stuyvesant Facebook page, got close to 25 more likes than both of our videos combined. It's not the problem that students won't look up these things online. It's found that these students need to see it in school where the decision actually matters and they can see the effects happening in real life, not online. Thank you.
I'm sorry to bring up a point that I already brought up, but I think that it really applies to this question. We have gotten teachers to support some of our policies, such as the 1-minute grace period. I think that if a lot of teachers in a specific department could agree to enforce this sort of policy, that will lead to the assistant principal of this department endorsing the policy, which the assistant principals all meet with the principal, I assume, to discuss these sort of issues. And if we have sort of that building up of our policies through the ranks, it will, it will lead to some real change.
Can I butt in for a second? Yeah. So let's assume that no figure of authority is helping you with your goals. They are all saying no. Where do you go from there?
All right, well, I think that one thing we need to do is at that point, If the administration is really against something, I think we should be reconsidering our policy. We should be looking at it to see what we think they are objecting to. We have to pinpoint these specific issues so we could take these little points within our policies and sort of, you know, make them more, I guess, fair to both the student body and the administration.
Also, we need to confer with the students. If we ask the students what their issues are, and if we can create a compromise, and what are the administration's issues, and what are the students' issues, if you can create a compromise between those two, then that could increase communication between the student body and faculty.
Right. Yeah, now we'll begin the closing statement. 2 minutes limit. Calvin, please go ahead.
The debate held here today is helping decide who's the best candidate to run this school. Who has the best policies? Who will get these things done? We will. We are the best candidates due to our experience, creative ideas, and passion for this job. A question we never got to ask was, how Adam and Tia would cope without the experience for this job required. The example was, we never got to ask it. An example we wanted to bring up was, would you let someone who has never played a game of baseball be captain of the baseball team? Would you let someone who has never played a game of baseball be captain of the baseball team? Insert Nancy Coe's laugh. No. It will lead to an unsuccessful year that will ruin the SU's reputation even further. This school means a lot to Calvin and I. We promise to work our hardest to keep to our word about everything we've said and to give the student body the best SU they've ever seen. With clarification of the dress code, improvement of options during freeze, and increased communication, we truly are the best candidates. So on May 18th, come together and let your voice be heard. Make the right choice. Vote for Calvin and Eddie for SU. Thank you.
I do want to note that that exact question that you wanted to ask was asked by them. They asked about our lack of experience and we responded.
Also, you saying that only people who work in the SU can become leaders of it, that just shows that people who actually have an interest in these but just don't have a chance to do so are not allowed to. That's restricting our motivation and our determination in this school, and that's completely against the Stuyvesant mentality. That's just like the extracurricular policy that they proposed recently.
Please try to focus on your closing statement.
At this point, I just want to thank everybody who has attended this event. Again, special thanks to those of you who helped make this debate possible and to everybody who asked questions and participated. Of course, I want to thank Calvin and Eddie for the discussion we had. There's no question that regardless of who becomes president, this debate will have provided useful ideas that hopefully either of us would put into play under administration. Still, there are things that separate us. I am the candidate of new ideas that we can be sure will work. I'm also the pragmatic candidate. I will not risk all of the SU's political capital only to gain nothing. At the same time, when I do end up in debates with the administration over the dress code, for example, I have the strongest arguments to win. So whether you support new ideas or support a fairer or better implementation of old ideas, we are the candidates for you.
Shake your hands like a heavy debate.
Woo! All right. Can everyone help with chairs?
Guys, before you go. May 18th, another day before, and please come, it'll be from 8 to 4 o'clock, and it'll be on the inside the cafeteria and the second floor near the bridge. Thank you. Please vote.